love my job, just going out and visiting people and seeing what's happening. It's quite refreshing. We really are heading into the back of beyond. Look at this bridge. Driving along in a very beautiful part of the Tauru Ranges to go and see Celia Wade-Brown. She was the Mayor of Wellington, and she has a block of land, and within her block she's got a great deal of native species, in particular reptiles, geckos and skinks. Swapping the mayoral chambers for gumboots and a trusty ute, Wade-Brown now spends most of her days restoring her land back to its natural state.
At least we can drive through the river today. Sometimes it's too high to drive through.
We're really going off-road. Excellent.
And this is an old sheep and beef farm. In fact, in the 50s it was logged, so there was a railway along the Maungatariri Valley Road which they used for hauling out logs, and then after they'd felled a lot of logs in kahikatea and totara and all sorts, then they burnt it and then they grazed it.
In 1987, Wade-Brown and her husband Alistair bought 200 hectares of land and got to work. First removing the stock and then letting nature take its course.
So we do have a few mature trees and plenty of seed source. It's come back really quickly. One of the first things to come back is the manuka and some kanaka. That's the first place it comes back, and then it's a bit slower on the more exposed bits of grass. And then I'm hurrying things up a bit up in front. We've got, you can hardly see the tree guards now from the grass inside, but if you get a little bit closer you'll see we've put some 5-finger seedlings that I've grown, and they're doing really well. And then they will drop their seed and the next bit will come along. When I first came over from England, standing in the New Zealand bush, and it smelt different to the English forests, and I just stood there and thought, I don't know a single one of these plants, so I've really enjoyed learning about the different plants and their Maori history, sometimes their Maori names. So for example, here we've got quite a young kahikatea, and it's just getting into its adult stage, so it's looking a bit greener. Then that one in the distance, that's one of the older trees on the property. That's a mature kahikatea, and I think it's got possibly some cavities that bats might really enjoy living in.
With native trees gradually coming back, Wade-Brown has set her sights on eradicating pests decimating indigenous animals.
We've been catching lots of weasels, rats, and one or two ferrets and quite a few stoats. And they all prey not just on birds but also on the lizards, and I'm very keen on the lizards that live on this place. We've got about 4 different species that I know of. I really want to protect them because they're pretty threatened. We talk about clean green New Zealand, but it's absolute nonsense. Because things evolved without mammalian predators, they are very, very vulnerable to cats, hedgehogs, possums, rats, all of those. We might stop here and I'll see if I can tempt the eels out for a feed. Whether they will or not, I don't know. They're wild animals, they have their own opinion. So here's a rat that we caught last night in a trap. And rather than just throwing it into the bush or using it to trap another rat, take it down, and we've got an eel that's quite interested. No, too big. But between them they'll come and chop it, they'll come and pull it apart and eat it, and take a couple of days to digest it, and then they'll be back for more.
The block is also completely off-grid, and what better way to get up to the higher slopes than an electric side-by-side.
It is actually road legal. I could drive it very slowly to Carterton.
I feel like I'm on safari in New Zealand.
No lions and tigers here, but there are a few large feral cats.
Following the old railway track, we come to where Wade-Brown has taken off-grid living to the limit.
We were trying to decide where to build. For a few summers we just camped here and then decided we were going to build a little cabin, and we decided we'd go into the furthest corner because otherwise we'd never get there. And the furthest corner, it looks to the north, so you've got plenty of sunlight, and we thought it would be safe for people burgling.
Alongside lizards and skinks, bats are also seen on the property. With the help of Sustainable Wairarapa, Wade-Brown is using technology to gather information on their numbers.
This transfer a frequency that we can't hear into a frequency we can hear. So if our bat's making a noise, it will translate into little clicks that we would actually hear. So you can walk along the edge of a forest and you'll hear when it's making the noise if there are bats present. But you do need to be out at exactly the right time to hear them fly past.
It's a short walk back through the bush to Wade-Brown's cottage. Built entirely from scratch, the one-bedroom home gives a commanding view of the Manatireri Valley and the foothills of the Tararua Ranges.
That's all Forest Park, so I feel like we're guardians of the Forest Park here.
Inside, heating is provided by a home range, and a love of nature and a fascination for reptiles is off the scale.
So as geckos grow, or in fact any lizard grows, they shed their skin. I call it their pajamas, and they shed it just one cell thick. You can see their little feet? And every gecko has got a slightly different pattern on it. Just as they grow, they scratch them off, and they scratch them off in one piece. And these are just the ones that I've collected in this house. And you can see the dear little feet. You see each single little toe. The whole thing comes off like a onesie.
Where'd you find them?
Where you find dust and under the chairs, sometimes just on the top of something like this. And that would be about, let me think, 3 or 4 years collection, just in our little cottage. Mice will get small lizards and geckos, and certainly weasels will. I did a dissection of a weasel, and it's got the little feet of the skinks in its stomach, which is really tragic.
For those of us without the land or the time to create our own biodiverse slice of paradise, Wade-Brown says there's still a role for us to play.
We're dependent on the rest of nature, so from a purely selfish point of view, our species is dependent on a healthy ecosystem for clean water, breathable air, and reduction of pollution. The more people get to know about nature, the more interesting they find it, and they feel that they're part of something, not separate from nature. The Maori philosophy has always been that we're connected with nature. Somehow neoliberalism and capitalism pulled us away, made us think that the theories of economic growth were more important than the theories of ecology. We've gone slowly down the wrong path for a long time, and we have to actually change habits quite quickly if we're not going to end up with more disasters. We need to live differently, we need to farm differently, we need to plant some areas and restrict where we have animals in others. And again, there's plenty of good examples of good farming practice that can be followed.
Phil Stebbing, Local Focus.